Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Anne and today I'm going to be bringing you my November wrap up. It's been a busy month. I have read my November wrap up, my October wrap up. I'm a month ahead of myself. My October wrap up. I have read so many books in November and I'm very excited to talk about them. There's a lot here, so I'm just going to go as quickly as I can and try and not make this an hour-long video. So let's get into the statistics and then we'll go through everything. So in the month of October, I read 30 books, 5 physical, 11 ebook, and 14 audiobooks. I know I said at the beginning of the year I needed to start upping my audiobook listening, and I definitely did that this month. 14 out of 30. So almost half of my reading was audio. I was in a weird mood this month where all I wanted to do was listen to audiobooks while at work instead of listening to podcasts and music. I generally do listen to audiobooks while at work, but this time I was going through like one a day, pretty much. It was crazy and a good time. Then we have genres read. I read 9 dark romance, 7 romance, 5 fantasy romance, 4 fantasy, 3 thriller, 2 horror. A little bit of a change there. For my age ranges, we've got 21 adult, 2 young adult, 0 middle grade. And for ratings, we have 7 5 stars, 15 4 stars, 6 3 stars, and 2 2 stars with 0 1 stars. So all in all, a pretty good reading month. And my books acquired, I had 9 that I owned, so they're off my shelf. 1 from the library, 5 ARCs, 2 from Kindle Unlimited, 7 from Audible, and 6 from Libby. So a wide range of different books that I got. So first book that I read in the month of October was She Was Made For Me by Jen Morris. I gave this 4 stars. So I wanted to read this because it is a forbidden sort of romance, taboo age gap romance. So in this one we're following Violet, and she has just been fired from her job. So her father kind of hires her to be a property project manager for a building that he wants renovated. And then we're also following Kyle, who is his best friend, who is a contractor, so he hires him to contract and do the renovations. And we're watching them as their relationship grows. This is so sweet. I really love Kyle and Violet. They are so sweet together, and I love how they were fighting it for so long, but Violet was like, heck no, I want this, I want to be with him. So she kind of pushed it and urged it along. And yeah, there was a 3rd act breakup, but I do enjoy a 3rd act breakup because it does kind of get the story going and showing that they do truly love for each other because they fight for one another. I had a great time with this one. Then I read Haunting Adeline. So this is kind of where my rabbit hole of going into dark romance started. I was looking for some unhinged men, and this one I've heard about for so long. And this was a 4-star read for me. So Haunting Adeline is about Adeline, and she is a author. And during a book signing, our other main character, Zaid, comes across her and becomes instantly obsessed. And he is a very unhinged, morally grey main character. So he starts stalking her, and we're following that story along with Adeline trying to figure out her grandmother's murder. And she's in this haunted, spooky house, and it is a fun time. It is dark. It's definitely not my cup of tea. I don't think I would reread it, but I had a good time while reading it. It's not something that I would recommend if you're not into dark romance. This is definitely not a beginner dark romance. It is dark. There's a lot of triggers, so do be aware going in, but I had a good time with it. Then we have the next book that we had was The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I give this 5 stars, loved it, and this is going to be in my Brie vlog that's definitely going to be upcoming. I know I keep talking about it, I know, but it's taken me a long time because I've got 27 books in this one. 5 stars, loved it, beautiful. It is a Hunger Games with vampires. That's all you need to know. The next one that I read was The House the Horror Built by Christina Henry. This is an ARC, and I gave this 2 stars. Unfortunately, this just wasn't good for me. I didn't really like it. So in this one we're following our main character, who is the cleaner for a movie director who has a cult following. She's obsessed with horror movies, and his house is full of horror movie memorabilia and collectibles. And she starts hearing voices within this house and starts trying to figure out just strange things are happening. I didn't like it. I found it to be boring. I found it to be very repetitive. This was definitely written during the COVID pandemic because it was smashing you over the head about the pandemic, talking about how restaurants are half-staffed and how people are still not hiring, and it just constantly talked about the pandemic and online teaching and learning for students, and it wasn't a good time. So the next book that I read was I Saw Her First by Jen Morris. This is an arc and the second book in the Forbidden on Fruit Street series, and this is a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. I had a great time with this. A massive thank you to Jen Morris for giving this as an arc. In this one we're following Daisy. She is a barista working at a cafe, and she's become intrigued by the older man who comes into the cafe. But nothing happens between them because she thinks he's married. Then we're following Weston, who is a widow who is going to the cafe, and Daisy brightens up his day all the time. And chemistry starts to strike, and then things turn for the worst when Daisy is brought home by his son as his new girlfriend. And we watch them figure it out. I love this one so much. The talk about grief between both characters, because both characters are grieving particular people, the mental health discussions. Jen Morris called me out on this, and I just love Weston. He is so thoughtful and did so many things for Daisy in this, and I just loved it so much. It was great. 5 stars. Then I read Maison de Fou. This is a dark erotic horror. It's not a dark romance. And I gave this 4 stars. So in this is book 2 in the Cirque de Desire series by Novocaine. This is another arc, so massive thank you to the author. This is a dark circus where you go and all of your greatest desires can come to life. So this is book 2, so I don't want to spoil book 1, but basically we're carrying on from what happened in book 1, and we're watching our main character become very much more dark. Again, a lot of triggers in this, so please be aware going in. I was very nervous about seeing a certain character in this because I didn't really like him in book 1, but I actually really enjoyed his point of view in this book. So if you're looking for a dark erotic horror novella, this is definitely a series for you. It is dark, it is gruesome, there's a lot of triggers, so do read those if you have triggers because it's dark. Then we read Hunting Adeline, and I gave this 3 stars. So this is following on from book 1. So it takes up immediately after book 1 with the cliffhanger, and this takes a turn that I wasn't expecting. This goes in a much darker way than I thought. So trigger warnings. Again, please be aware. And it's very different from book 1. It's much darker. It touches on much darker themes. It has on-page sexual assault scenes, and it is dark, it is gruesome. But I did enjoy the healing aspect. I did enjoy watching Zaid fight for Adeline. And yeah, I did. It was a struggle. It was a struggle. There was at certain points when I wanted to DNF. Then I was so lucky to beta read When Death Calls Life Home by Zoe Breyer. This is a 5-star read for me. Absolutely love it. This is fantasy romance, and nothing has been released yet about this book, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but 5 stars. Absolutely beautiful. It made me smile, it made me laugh, it made me cry. Beautiful for a debut, and I cannot wait to talk about this book in more depth, review it in more depth, and get it in your hands because it is. The next one that I read is Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. This is a 5-star read for me, and I have a vlog where I read this. This is my cozy weekend reading vlog, so definitely check that out if you want my full thoughts. But I love this. I love Lachlan and I love Lark. Their dynamic is beautiful, and I had a great time with it. As you can see, I tabbed it up so much. Best time. The smut, top tier, and yeah, it was good. So good. In that same vlog, I also read That One Night, which was a 4-star read, and this is by Emily Roth. This is the prequel novella to Pucking Around. It is a ice hockey reverse harem romance, but in this prequel we're basically following two of our main characters within poking around and watching them have their one night stand. It was fun, it was a smutty time, and I had a good time with it. Then I read Down Comes the Night by Alison Saft. This is a 4-star read for me, and I talk about this a lot more in my Brie vlog that is upcoming, but this is a fantasy romance where we're following someone who has been kicked out of the army, and she decides to go to another kingdom to help a servant who is in need of her healing abilities, and finds out a lot of stuff about her kingdom and the other kingdom, and there's a lot of political intrigue in here. It was fun. Next book that I read was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This is a domestic thriller where we're following a bunch of school moms whose children are in kindergarten, and someone ends up murdered. Right from the beginning of the story, we know that someone has been murdered. Someone is dead. We don't know what happens. So we're following the lead up to that, which I found very interesting. And I gave this 3 stars. This was the most domestic catty woman drama that I've ever read in my life. It was insane. I'm not a mum, so I don't relate to a lot of the things in here. But it was definitely interesting. I wasn't expecting the person who was murdered to be the person who was murdered, so that was interesting. There was a couple of plot twists in here that did shock me, but again, I don't think domestic thrillers are for me. The next one that I read was Scream for Us by Molly Doyle. This is a short Halloween dark romance novella with a reverse harem, so this is 3 stars. So in this one we're following our main character who goes to a Halloween party and comes across 3 masked men and has some fun smutty times. There is some trigger warnings in here, so do be aware going in, but this is a fun time, silly rompy time. It was only about an hour and a half on audio and I had a fun time with it. But I was definitely starting to churn through the dark romance audiobooks. There's not much really to talk about. It was very short, it was very quick, lots of smut, and I'm very intrigued to see where the rest of the series goes. The next one that I read was This Deceit of Ours by Shannon R. Lear. This is a 5-star read for me, absolutely stunning. A fantasy romance following a woman who is part of a clan, and we have a marriage of convenience to help her find her father and the prince of this underworld, the demon prince, and he is trying to get his father off his back, so he gets her to be his wife. Very interesting, loved it, stunning, and more on that in the brief. I read was The Couple Next Door by Shari Lapina. This is really interesting. So in this one we're following our main character. Hugo is just had a baby. She is 6 months postpartum, and their babysitter cancels, and they decide that they are still going to go to the dinner party that they were invited to because it's only next door. When they get home, they find their baby missing. So we're following that story as they're trying to figure out what happened to their daughter. This is really interesting. At the beginning, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this one, but as we move through and all of these layers and lies, and you're unsure of who to trust in this whole thing, like, did the parents do it? Did someone really kidnap it? Is neighbors involved? Like, there were so many people that you're suspicious of, and I had a good time with this. So this is another 3-star read for me, but it's definitely one that I would recommend. It was definitely a good time, and I'm very intrigued to check out more from this author. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. The next book that I read was Glint by Raven Kennedy, and this is book 2 in the Plated Prisoner series. I love this one. 5 stars. The turn this book took was so good, and the cliffhanger, amazing. In this one we definitely get to see Oren more as a main character. She's definitely starting to become her own, and I'm very intrigued to see where the rest of the series goes, because it kind of takes a massive turn again, like Guild. So I'm very intrigued to see where that goes. Then I also read Good Witch Gone Bad by Addie O'Brien. This was a 4-star read for me. In this one we're following Raven. She is a witch, and witches in this world are basically they do whatever humans need of them. And she has been abused. There is trigger warnings in here, so do be careful. And during a time when she is being hurt by someone, she kind of yells out into the universe like, I curse you to the depths of hell. And a demon hears her and comes and helps. And then we're following Silas, who is ready to play a game, ready to get her to seek revenge and kill a lot of people. And it is a fun time. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very intrigued to see where book 2 goes when it is released. 4-star read. The next one that I read was Still Life by Louise Penny. This is a 2-star read for me, unfortunately. So this is a crime thriller where we're following an inspector who is trying to figure out what happened to someone who was murdered. So we're in this very small town, and I found with this book that within the same chapter we kind of jump perspectives, and because we're in such a small town there are so many characters involved, and I found this to be very hard to figure out, especially on audio. I was finding it hard as to who was talking, what was happening, who were people talking about. But yeah, this is a very long series, and I've heard that it's very highly regarded, but it just wasn't for me, unfortunately. The next one that I read was The Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, and this is a 3-star read for me. So in this one we're following our main character who has been kidnapped by aliens, and while on the ship it ends up crashing onto this icy planet, and our main character has to go and try and get help, and she comes across an ice planet barbarian and immediately he just realizes that she is his mate, and she has to try and save the humans while also trying to stop this alien from having sex with her constantly. It was a fun, rompy, smutty time. I continue with the series. I did read book 2 in this month as well. It was just a fun time. Smutty, fun with an alien. Then I read Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Nacosta, and this is a 4-star read for me. Another one that I was very intrigued by. So this picture, as you can see, is a woman cuddling a minotaur. So it is minotaur romance, and the name of this book just intrigued me so much. Morning Glory Milking Farm. In this one we're following our main character who ends up working at a milking farm. So this milking farm is basically where minotaurs go to get their baby making fluid collected so that they use it in medicines to help people. I don't know. But anyway, she works there, and on her first day she comes across this minotaur, and she is instantly intrigued by him, and he is intrigued by her too. And we just watch their slow burn romance. It's cute, it's sweet, it's a fun smutty time, and I was just on a roll with my fun smutty reads this month. The next one that I read was Sick Boys by Clarissa Wilde. This is a 4-star read for me. Again, this is another dark romance. It is a very unhinged book, and this is reverse harem. So in this one we're following our main character whose sister has died. So she transfers to this college where her sister used to be to figure out who killed her, basically. And she comes across these 3 boys who her sister has warned her to stay away from. And she needs help trying to figure out what happened to her sister, and they agree to help her and get some answers because they also want to know. But she has to agree to be their slave, basically. Do whatever they ask of her, which leads to a lot of smutty scenes. I would say that there is a lot of triggering content in here. I would say there's a lot of dubious consent within this one, and this is definitely a bully romance. The guys are very mean to her. They do use her and demean her and humiliate her and degrade her a lot within this, so do be aware going into that. It is a bully romance, and I'm pretty sure this is my first bully romance, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but towards the end I did enjoy it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one that I read was A Court That's Cruel and Lovely by Stacia Stark. This is book 1 in the Kingdom of Lies series, and this is a fantasy romance. I gave this 5 stars, absolutely loved it. This is great. So in this one we're following our main character Priska, who has magic, and she shouldn't have magic because in this world when you're a baby your magic gets taken away from you, and then at the age of 25 your magic is given back, in a small portion. And for those people who still have their magic, even though it should have been taken away, they end up getting executed by the king because they are a danger to this world. So Priska is on this journey to try and get away and save herself, and comes across a missionary, a mercenary, and they decide that they need to work together, and we watch their romance blossom. It is a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. 5-star read for me, and this is in my Brie vlog that is upcoming. This vlog is taking me so goddamn long, but we are almost there. I promise. Then we read Blue Smoke by Nora Roberts. In this one we're following our main character Rena, who is a fire inspector. So she basically goes into places where there's been fires, and she figures out whether it was an accident or if someone did it, and then if someone did it, who did it. When she was a child, her family's Italian restaurant went up in flames, and the people who went away from that kind of set her on this journey of being a fire inspector. And we're watching her as she goes through life, basically becoming a fire inspector, with a lot of mishaps happening to certain people around her. And then we're also following Boo, who saw her at a party one day and instantly became in love with her and has been trying to find her for 14 years. And then we watch their stories intersect and watch their romance blossom. I gave this a 4-star. It was great. I had a good time with it, and it is in my Brie vlog. Then I read The Legacy of Imral Olatris by Mark R. Michiola. This is a 4-star read, and this is another arc. So in this is a 6 novella omnibus of the Imral story. So we're following Imral, who was possessed by a demon at a very young age, and she ended up being put to this church to try and keep her alive and save her. And when she reaches a certain age, she decides that she wants to get rid of this demon, so goes on the hunt for a sword that will do that. And the story goes from there. These are 6 novellas, and we're basically following Imral through her life. I had a great time with this. There's a lot of emotions within this story. There's a lot of things like grief, struggling with trauma, light versus dark, and it was definitely a good time. If you want a special edition or of this book, you can check them out on Mark's website. I'll link them down below. But if you want to check out these books, they are available on Amazon as individual ebooks, so definitely check those out too, because there's no point in buying a special edition if you haven't read the series and if you don't know if you enjoy it. So I'll link all of that down below if you want to check it out. But it was definitely a fun time. Then I read Scarred by Emily McIntyre. This is book 2 in the Ever After series, where these stories are inspired by Disney villains. So in this one, it's inspired by Scar from The Lion King, and I was wondering how she was going to do this. So in this one, we're following our main characters. So we're following our Sarah. She is on a mission to take down the king who killed her father. So she decides that she is going to become engaged and married to him and take them down from the inside. And then we're also following the king's brother, who is very intrigued by Sarah. And we're watching their forbidden romance as he is scheming in the background, and while Sarah's scheming in the background, doing 2 separate things with the same goal in mind. And just watching their back and forth is really, really interesting. I enjoyed it and had a good time with it. Then I read Cute But Psycho by Beatrix Hollow. So in this one, we're following our main character, who is a vampire. She is half human, half vampire, and she is obsessed with her psychiatrist. So she ends up stalking him and finds out that he is a serial killer. So in an attempt to keep her close, he gets her committed into an asylum for magical creatures, supernatural creatures. But in this mental asylum, everyone knows that everyone is a supernatural creature, but they don't admit it. They try and convince you that you're just crazy. And this is unhinged, completely unhinged. This is a reverse harem, so there are 3 males who become involved with our main character. She's crazy. She's obsessed with blood, and she is just as much as unhinged as these men are. We have Basil, which and the humor in here is top tier, just top tier. Then I read an arc of Locked In by Violet San. This was a 4-star read for me, and in this one we're following our main character whose life is not great. Everything is going wrong. Everything and anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. And then we're following her stalker, who for the past 6 years has been destroying her life slowly and meticulously to get back at her for leaving him for dead. And we watch them as she realizes she has a stalker and comes face to face with the man that she thought died 6 years ago. It is really good. I had a great time with it. Another unhinged man stalker series book, and it was a fun time. I'm not gonna lie, a fun time. Then I read Barbarian Alien by Ruby Dixon. This is book 2 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, where we're following another female and another alien male in this series. So in this one we're following Liz and her mate, who when he realizes she's his mate, he throws her over his shoulder and takes her to a cave where no one can find them so they can mate, and he can get her pregnant and then take her back. And she's not having it, and it's just such a fun smutty time. I had a great time. Then I read Sweet Berries, which is the second book in the Cambric Creek series, which is the second book after Morning Glory Milky Farm. So in this one we're following Sweet Berries, and this is a Mothman and a human. I really enjoyed this. This one was really cute. So our main character has had a bad marriage, and she has run away and divorced her husband, and it's 3 years, and everyone's trying to convince her to move on. And one night she ends up getting a little bit frisky at home, and someone's watching her in a tree, and she enjoys that. And then she meets Mr. Mothman, and she realizes immediately that it's him, and we just watch their relationship blossom. So the smut definitely starts quite early within this one, and we're watching the relationship. So they start backwards. So they start with smut and sex, and then a relationship starts to form, compared to book 1 where, well, I mean, book 1 technically she's jerking him off, but that's for money, so that's different. But yeah, this is really cute. Our Mothman is very wary of being in this town because humans haven't been very nice to him, and in this town everyone gets along, all the species get along, and he's very confused by that and he doesn't understand it. And we watch him come into his own, and we watch her realize that maybe a relationship isn't that bad after all. And it was just a really good time. And continuing with my reread of the Throne of Glass series, I picked up Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas, and I loved it. So this is a sequel to Throne of Glass, where we're following Selena Sardothian, who is an assassin, and she is taken out of her slave encampment to take part in a tournament to become the King's Champion. And in this one we're continuing on from that series. I love this one so much. I tabbed even more, as you can see. I love learning a lot more. There were so many things in here that I completely forgot about, so I'm very excited to continue with my reread. I just had the best time. So I'm not going to continue talking, but that was the last book in this video. We had a long-winded one. There was 30 books to talk about, so that was a lot of books. But I'm very excited for the month of November and all the books that I'm going to be hopefully reading in November. Hopefully I don't get into a book slump. Fingers crossed. But make sure to like this video if you liked it, comment down below what you read in the month of October and what your favorite book was, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Bye!